What's up, everybody? I'm back with another Pokemon TCG Online deck. Today I'm going to be looking at one of the top decks for U.S. Nationals. If any of you guys looked into that, you would see that I believe this was the runner-up. I can't exactly remember. And it is an exact deck copy. I'll be pausing. I'll make a note of the thing. About 1 minute in, and this is about when we'll start. What is up, everybody? I'm back with another Pokemon TCG Online deck. Today I'm going to be looking at one of the top decks at U.S. Nationals. This is one of the ones that's classified as Water Toolbox, and this deck got, I believe, third place at U.S. Nationals in the Masters Division. And this is the exact deck list, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I changed anything. So if you guys looked into that at all, you would probably have seen this deck before. It's a pretty interesting deck. When I first looked at it, I was kind of confused at how it went. I haven't looked at any of the matches or anything. I really haven't had any time. But I've been playing some decks on my own, and I'm kind of getting my own feel for it. I'm sure when you guys see some of the matches, you can let me know if you think I should have played them a little differently, because I've definitely been learning quite a bit. So the whole consensus here is you have quite a few different attackers, and we only play basic water energy because really the only one that can use a DCE would be Seismitoad. So only using DC just for him, that's kind of dumb because it's not very efficient for your deck in case for some example you wouldn't want to attack with him for whatever reason. But from what I've seen, you want Seismitoad to be at least your attacker at the beginning of the match to definitely slow down your opponent. And using Quacking Punch for 2 water energies, you're only doing 30 damage, so you don't want to attack with this the entire game. You just want to use this to try to slow your opponent down. The other attack, which you'll actually use in a majority of matches if you need to, because this is the most damage you can output with this deck, is 130 for 2 water and a colorless, so just 3 water energy. Well, you do 30 to your to 2 of your bench Pokemon, which, if you know about Rough Seas, once during each player's turn, you may heal 30 damage from each of your water or lightning Pokemon, or electric Pokemon, whichever you prefer. So as long as that stadium's up the following turn, that's not too big of a deal. So Seismitoad's what you want to use typically at the start of the game, which is why you're running 3. Then we have, I'll say, Regice next. Resistance Blizzard is what you'll be typically using for 3 water energy is what we'll be using. Prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by Pokemon EX. So with so many different EX Pokemon running around, this is a pretty big wall. You'll see opponents do some pretty crazy things to try to get out of this. As well as Glaceon here, Crystal Ray, same energy cost, same damage, but this one is during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from evolution Pokemon. So interesting to note, this one does not prevent all effects. as Regice does. It says prevent all effects and damage, and this one is just prevent the damage. Doesn't really matter too much. I don't really see too many attacks with effects particular. I guess like moving energy, Sylveon or something, but we don't have anything to stop that anyways. Then of course we have two Manaphy, the ability Aqua Tube. Each of your Pokemon that has any water energy attached to it has no retreat cost. Really, really good ability, especially with this deck with everything having a pretty high retreat cost. Seismitoad 3, Regice 3, Glaceon 2, Articuno 2, Hoopa 2, and then Shaman and Manaphy each have 1. So having that free retreat is really, really good. Then we also have Articuno, Delta Plus. You can take one more prize card if you knock out your opponent's active Pokemon, or any Pokemon, I should say, although you're only doing damage to the active. So this attack, again, is 3 energy. See that as a theme, pretty much all of our attackers need 3 energy. 20 plus, flip 3 coins. This attack does 40 more damage for each head, so on average, you should get at least 1 head, so 60 damage. If you can knock out an EX that you already have been damaged, you're getting 3 prize cards. I personally don't use it too much. I usually try to just stall your opponent with a Glaceon or Regice. But definitely having 1 in here, if you can get it out and power it up, is a really, really good option. Then, of course, a Hoopa EX. With Scoundrel Ring, you can get 3 Pokemon EX. I usually don't actually use that every game. Mainly what I've been using it for is if you start out with, say, an Articuno or a Shaman in the active, and you have an Ultra Ball, or you end up getting an Ultra Ball, you can Ultra Ball for Hoopa, then get out a Seismitoad, a Manaphy, and your other Shaman, as long as nothing's prized. And then you can play down your Seismitoad, Manaphy, put a water energy on Articuno or whoever's in the active that you don't want up there. Play down the other Shaman, and then you can kind of get going on your way. The main reason you can kind of do that is we do play 3 energy switch, which is really, really a useful card. I could see playing 4, but sometimes that can just be kind of in the way. And the only thing you could probably get rid of is maybe a Sycamore, but you really want all 4 of them for this kind of deck, since you are using if you have Max Elixir in your hand, you're pretty much going to use it. Trainer's Mail, same thing. Ultra Ball, typically the same thing. So your hand usually gets died down pretty quickly. And then, of course, 2 Shaman. I was running, I believe, 3, but I think 2 is a pretty good number, since your bench will be full with a Manaphy, a Seismitoad, a Shaman, sometimes a Hoopa. So next, I did mention the Max Elixir. Look at the top 6 cards and attach a basic energy card there to a basic Pokemon. We are playing only basics, so Jolteon can be a bit of a problem, but Lysander is in the format, so that's pretty much your only way around that. But there aren't too many of them running around. Actually, I did run into a Mega Manectric deck that was giving me some trouble, but Mega Manectric with Jolteon EX. But that wasn't really a highly popular deck, so you don't need to look into that too much. 1 Starling Megaphone. We will be item locking them, hopefully, around turn 1 or 2, but still 1 Starling Megaphone is pretty good. Garbodor isn't too huge of a problem, but definitely we would like our free retreat in case something like that does come up. 1 Super Rod. I mainly use this for getting our water energy back, but for example, if you're trying to stall or just keep this up there using Crystal Ray and it gets knocked out somehow, you can just Super Rod it back in and sometimes even get it charged up in 1 turn if you've got a couple Max Elixirs or Energy Switch still in your hand. Trainer's Mail, just trying to get out other cards if you need an Ultra Ball, Energy Switch, or Max Elixir. Pretty good way to just get what you need. Ultra Ball and VerSeeker, as you would expect. 1 AZ, since you are using these just for their ability, it would be good to get them up. Typically, I use that for Shaman. But I guess if needed, you can just get Hoopa out of the way or something like that. 1 Hex Maniac. If you can get this on your very first turn, sometimes it can be pretty bad for opponents, since a lot of people just rely on Shaman to set up. No pun intended with the ability. And I mean, typically you don't get it on your first turn, but if you do, it can be pretty devastating for your opponent because they really can't get anything going sometimes. 2 Lysandre, since you are item locking, you can Lysandre them out, and then they really don't have any way to switch out. 2 N, Sycamore, 1 Xerosic, just to mess with your opponent. 4 Rough Seas, healing 30 damage is pretty good for this deck. Again, counter stadiums as well. 3 Fighting Fury Belt, 40 HP is really good. Sometimes they just can't knock you out, especially when you're healing 30 damage. So that's pretty great. And then 11 Water Energy, really good number. I typically don't run out of water energy, especially with Super Rod. You could maybe take it down by 1, but I just used the exact copy of the 3rd place deck at Nationals. Of course, 1st place was Night March. I've personally actually never played that deck. I have no interest. It just seems like every game is identical. It's kind of boring, in my opinion. I guess that's why a lot of people aren't really fans of this format. But fortunately, we'll be rotating out, and none of that stuff will be viable anymore after Worlds. And then I believe 2nd place was a Darkrai Giratina deck of that some sort. I did build one of them, but I haven't really been testing it yet. That might be my next video, but I'm not quite sure. So let's get right into some matches here. Have tested it a few different times, but as I said before, I am learning quite a bit. So we'll just pick the coin toss here. Opponent will choose to go first. Typically, there's not too many people that go second. So let's see what we got here. Probably a Trevenant. I didn't really pay attention to what we were facing against. Are going to mulligan here, unfortunately. And we're going to mulligan again. So it looks like we're going to be facing a Trevenant deck. Very likely. Hopefully they can't get set up on the first turn. We'd be in pretty bad shape. And we start off with a Hoopa, so it's a pretty bad match here. All right, we are back with another Water Toolbox deck here. Opponent is mulligan, or didn't draw a basic here. And we ended up with 2 Manaphys in our hands, so not the most ideal start, but see if we can get anything going. Opponent will be going first. Interesting. Discard a special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Not exactly sure what kind of deck this is going to be. It was only Psychic deck. The heck we got going on here? Each player, that's Judge. Oh, Delta Evolution. Evolution Jam. Your opponent can't play any Pokemon from his or her hand to evolve, so that doesn't bother us. Put 5 damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon. So, not really concerned here about that. Not quite sure what exactly we're facing against here. We can grab that. Never know what you might need. And a trainer's mail. Okay, so we'll get Sycamore, then we can Ultra Ball, maybe do... Might grab Hoopa, might grab just a Shaman here. I think I'll actually grab Hoopa. I'll grab a Seismitoad, a Shaman, and a Glaceon, because I can see that being pretty useful here. At least against that can knock him out pretty quickly. Hopefully we can get some kind of energy and a max elixir or something of that some kind of sort like that. Do get an energy, so trying to think of the best setup here. Probably max elixir. Kind of tricky. Gonna try to do another Shaman. Because I was thinking I could retreat, energy switch, but then I couldn't do the max elixir. So we'll have to think of, and I really don't want to end since my opponent only has 3 cards. Looks like we're gonna have to end here. Don't see us being able to get the item lock out this turn, but you never know. And yeah, we got a pretty bad draw off that end. So I'm just gonna have to end the turn. That is one problem with the deck if you start out with something in the active. If you don't get the right max elixir energy switch combination, you can't really do anything for a turn or two sometimes. We do have Lysander in hand, which can slow him down, but might be seeing another judge or something like that coming up. This could be a good option for Articuno. I just don't really like the coin flips. I'd rather just know exactly what I'm doing because you could get all 3 tails. I know I do 20 damage, for example, with that Ghastly. If we were going to play Articuno, if you got all 3 tails, you wouldn't even knock it out. So we are going to see Haunter here. When you place Pokemon, both get confused, and during your opponent is poisoned and they can't retreat. Not quite sure why you would put a muscle band on your net there. Pretty interesting deck here. I'm not exactly sure what is going on still. Yeah, we clearly aren't playing evolution Pokemon, so I'm not exactly sure what is going on here. I'm actually going to discard Regice and Seismitoad simply just to get them out of the deck. I don't see us needing those. And then we'll just play N here. Nothing else really to do with that hand. We got a pretty good hand here, actually. If I can get... I'm thinking at this point it might actually be better just to charge up Glaceon here. My opponent is set up pretty good. Might be able, if we can get another energy here, which we can. So we'll be 10 energy away from the knockout, but he can't attack us this turn. Or actually 20. I misread what that said. But if he chooses to confuse both of us and he hits tails, then he won't be damaging me, and he'll get knocked out. So not too worried here. We are going to see a level ball. So pretty interesting deck here for our first match. Not sure if this opponent plays Gengar. We'll see a Lysander. I'm not worried about that for your retreat. I guess we do have the weakness, but doesn't really have much going for him here. So what I'll do is I'll actually use this to retreat. And then we'll just use the energy switch to put it on Seismitoad. Maybe he'll choose to Lysander that again, but might as well put it on something useful here. Do get our Fighting Fury belt. And we'll just attack here with Crystal Ray. Interesting, my opponent chose Ghastly since he would just be evolving into Haunter. Unless he has a different version. I don't believe there is another version of Haunter out there. So opponent will be playing N. A rather interesting deck, I have to say. Especially for our first matchup. Very likely we'll be getting confused here. Yes. We do not play any switch cards, so trying to think if it'll be better to just attack with Seismitoad or not. Devolution Spray. Huh. Very, very strange deck. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. It also is a very strange theory because if you're forcing your opponent to be de-evolutioned or however you want to say it, if you're confusing them, then they can just simply re-attack because the confusion will be gone. Not really much to do here. I think what I'm actually going to do is play Hex Maniac. Because I really don't feel like dealing with this confusion stuff. And then in the following turn, we'll be in pretty good shape. So that is one thing. Opponent is going to play the Delinquent and get us to discard all 3 of our cards. Not sure what makes me choose, but not that big of a deal. Weren't really of any use anyway. Are going to see an Espeon, which is interesting. Clearly, my opponent doesn't have a hand of any sort. We do have Lysander, but I'll just take the prize card here. We do have free retreat, so if he does choose to confuse us, I'll happily go into Glaceon again. That is a one-hit knockout on that Haunter. But he will be evolving into Gengar, which is what I was saying. It seemed he should be. Your opponent, if your opponent's active Pokemon is now poison, put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. If your opponent's active Pokemon has 3 or more damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. Well, I'm not going to have 3 damage counters on me. And I'll retreat into that. What is this? I actually don't know what Espeon does. Devolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon and put the highest stage evolution card onto it. So it's all about making your opponent unevolve. And then it just does 70 straight up. I think I'm just going to attack here. I believe that this effect actually doesn't work because it says prevent all damage, but this simply says if you have 3 or more damage counters, you're knocked out. So I will Lysander out this Gengar here and get rid of this thing. I'm not attaching energy because I have no clue where it should go. There's no real need to attach it anywhere specific. Do get a Rough Sea so we can heal off a lot of the damage. At least on our water Pokemon. My opponent isn't choosing to concede, which is interesting. And I'll play Rough Seas. I'll pull up a Shaman. And then we can put another water energy and we can Shaman back. And opponent will concede. So kind of a fun little interesting match there with this kind of Gengar, Haunter, Bayonet deck. I've personally never faced one before, so if you didn't notice, I was kind of confused on what exactly the strategy was with that deck. All right, we are back with another match here. Not quite sure what exactly kind of deck we're going up against, but clearly they're going to try to item lock us before we can do it to them. Sycamore, I wonder, must not have much in their hand there. I've never quite understood the purpose of Unknown unless you're trying to get damage from it. Because it takes up a spot in your deck of a card you could put in there. And then when you discard it, you're just drawing a card. So I guess if you want to minimize different cards in your deck, you could use that. But so next turn, don't have much options. I'll probably just play Seismitoad, attach an energy. Probably going to get item locked here. Not quite sure how many Glooms and Oddishes and stuff these kind of decks run. 2 Oddish, a Gloom, and a Vileplume already in the discard, so probably at least a 3/3 line, that looks to be. And he will item lock us on the first turn. He does have the free retreat. Alright, we are back with another deck here. Looks like we'll be playing a Night March deck, which is pretty much all anybody plays anymore, it seems. I believe I will be grabbing a Hoopa here. And get out our setup that we typically want to get. Put down these. We'll max elixir, hopefully get something for our Seismitoad, which we do. That's the benefit of playing. There's energies in this kind of deck. Typically, if you look at the top cards of your deck, you will manage to get at least one, which is pretty good. And I really trying to think if there's anything else I should do here. Could max elixir again, but I don't really need to. I wouldn't mind getting that last spot for another shaman, or not shaman, another Seismitoad. I think we will end the turn here. And see what my opponent does. I don't think there's any way for them to knock out my Seismitoad unless they play Starling Megaphone, Lysander, and can get pretty much half their deck or more in the discard. Let's see what my opponent can do here. Feel pretty good about my position. Other than Regice in the active, although if it does get knocked out, I'm not too concerned. We'll be putting down quite a few Pokemon there. Do have N in the discard. I believe we also put in Xerosic, although I don't think that's too big of a deal. I can't imagine that when they originally thought of the Night March concept that it would overtake the format like that, considering I believe Joltik and Pumpkaboo are all common cards. Yeah. Probably like, oh, this is a fun little concept for people that don't want to spend a bunch of money on EX cards, and then they end up winning Nationals and very likely Worlds, because there's not really anything in Steam Siege I see, with I believe Karen not actually being in the English release, so it will not be legal. Maybe it'll be a promo, that'll be pretty cool, or they will end up putting it in the set, and maybe someone overlooks something, but only time can tell, I suppose. Like I said, hopefully we could top deck an Ultra Ball, although Ultra Ball probably wouldn't be the best option. Top decking just the Seismitoad in general would be pretty sweet, because we could have max elixir, Fighting Fury Belt, attach an energy. If that Regice gets knocked out, put down the other Shaman. So we got pretty good options here. It would actually be pretty nice if the Regice was knocked out. We can end them deck down to 5. Although they're at 5 now, I'm not quite sure what exactly they're planning to do here. I don't believe he's played a supporter. I really don't pay attention when they're playing because it's the same match every single time virtually. Interesting, we haven't seen any Mew yet. Maybe our opponent doesn't choose to run that variant. Although it probably wouldn't be too bad an idea. If they didn't get set up, they could use Seismitoad's attack here. Since it is 2 colorless, they could just Quacking Punch for just 1 energy if they had Dimension Valley out, which they do. Yeah, this is one deck I've never played and never plan on using just because of the fact that it's kind of the same setup regardless. If you get item locked, you're going to concede unless you can. If, like, for example, Trevenant, if I item lock you on your first turn, if you don't play Hex Maniac, you're pretty much going to lose because you can't really do anything. And then if I don't item lock you on the first turn, you're probably going to win because you're going to knock me out on your first turn. So see how much we do here. I didn't even pay attention. 170. First turn. I guess he's got, what, 8 in there already? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he has, other than these 3 here, there's one more jolting in his deck. Pretty much probably prized. Trying to think of what the best option would be here. I really want the Fighting Fury Belt. I'm probably going to get rid of the Max Elixir and the Water Energy because there's actually no way for him to one-hit knock me out unless he gets a Xerosic, which I personally don't know if they run those. I want to grab another Seismitoad here. And we do succeed. As always, they can Lysander, but lucky for us, they are on an odd number. So they do have to take 3 prize cards. Do get another energy. And 2, 4, 6. I will choose to end. It's only 1 card, but actually, let me do the math here real quick. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I knock that out, that's 9. And then there's one more possible, so that's 10. So that'll be 200 damage. So he would need to discard the other Joltik and use Xerosic to knock me out. So I think I'm going to get rid of that. Well, actually, yeah, I'm just going to Xerosic here. I think that's actually the best option. Well, let me make sure he hasn't got rid of any DCs yet. 1 Psychic Energy. I think I'm going to choose to get rid of that. Unfortunately, I don't get the Rough Seas, although it would likely be countered. I didn't notice if he had discarded any yet. He hasn't. I believe they run 4, so they'll likely have 3 more in their deck. Do get item locked here. Have Sycamore and N and an AZ, so I'm not too worried about getting Lysandered out or anything like that. Especially with free retreat. I believe we've only lost 1 water energy, which we have. We've used 3 max elixir. So no energy switch. We'll be going for the Xerosic, so interesting play. I wasn't personally familiar if they actually ran that or not, but opponent will knock me out there with the exact number. So maybe knocking out that Joltik wasn't the best option, but at the time it was. I'll most certainly be playing N here. No reason not to. Actually, I'm also going to grab another. I believe the other side of the turd was in the deck, and it was. So we'll do that, and I will play an N. Opponent has way too many cards. Don't want him to get anything else there. We'll be getting another energy. Unfortunately, we can't play Hex Maniac. I can't fathom him playing having 2 Xerosic in his deck. Go for another Trainer's Mail. Do have an energy switch. Never know if that's handy. And then we'll just Quaking Punch. Unfortunately, can't knock him out. Likely will retreat maybe. Or he'll just attack and get knocked out. Interesting, I can Verse Seeker, Xerosic, get rid of a DC on the Joltik if he does choose to play that. And then I will knock out the Pumpkaboo. He will have enough to knock me out, but if he was to play DC, it would be gone. He'd only have one more in his deck. So, but no need to talk before anything happens here. So my best guess is that other Joltik's prized, but so we do see the first Mew here. And I'll straight up Night March. So what I'm actually going to do is Hex Maniac. Mew cannot attack. Shaman, no more use for him. And that'll definitely put my opponent back quite a bit. I could Energy Switch and retreat, although that really doesn't do anything. I don't think he plays 2 Xerosic, so I don't see any way for that to be discarded, because that would be pretty devastating. Have a 2 knockout turn, but I think Hex Maniac's the way to go here. Hopefully nothing bad happens out of that, but denying the Mew play is pretty big, especially since he literally only has 2 more Joltik ones in play. He was probably hoping he wouldn't need another Joltik, so be interesting to see what he chooses to do here. I believe Mew does have free retreat. Yeah. Search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So he could search out for another Shaman or the last Joltik if it is in his deck, maybe another Mew. But if I was to knock out that Joltik, we'll have to see what he gets here. If he does for some reason choose a Mew, I'm going to Lysander and get out that Joltik. I believe Lysander's in the discard, right? Oh, no, it's not. No, that's not good. That is not good at all. So the play here is to either use Hex Maniac again or end my opponent down to 3. Not personally sure which one's the best option. I think I'm actually just going to play Hex Maniac once again. Clearly he has no option with that, and in the following turn I can hopefully do something else. That is an issue with this deck. You can't really get many knockouts quickly. Could see our opponent retreat into Shaman, although I believe that will be highly unlikely due to the fact that they don't typically run many energies. For DCE, I did see 1 basic Psychic Energy. Yeah. So I can't fathom him using a DCE to retreat and wasting his turn to put down an energy since they are so limited. Opponent does pass there. I think in this situation, I'm just going to check out the deck, just have an idea of what exactly we have left. We do have 5 energies, a Fighting Fury Belt, Earthseeker, both of our Lysanders, so definitely Sycamore here's to play, and our opponent will concede. So although our opponent got all that stuff in the discard, got an early knockout on the Regice, can't really do much after that. Also, that other Seismitoad was knocked out, and as soon as we get the item lock and the ability lock there, they had no option. So it looks like we're actually going to be playing another Night March deck. And we will mulligan. This will probably be my last match for using this deck. So hopefully it's a decent one for you guys. Rayquaza. Very scary because he could knock me out. And we'll just play N. Not sure how many Skyfield he'll be playing, but I can imagine it's enough that I'll need to get rid of that. Typically don't like to discard energy, but in this situation, I need to get set up as fast as possible. And getting Hoopa out and then getting out our Manaphy, Shaman. I don't think we're going to need Seismitoad in this matchup. Although I guess putting it down isn't going to hurt anything really. And it'll get it out of our deck. I will Max Elixir onto the Regice if we can, which is good. Or should I do Seismitoad? I don't know. This guy's probably going to get set up in one turn, so probably better off to stick with the Regice. Good thing about this is also the Glaceon shuts down Raichu if he has it. He shuts down Mega Rayquaza if he gets it in play this turn. And I'll end the turn. Interesting to see if my opponent can get set up real quickly. As I have said before, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, I am just getting back into the TCG, so if I don't notice what exactly the deck's going to be doing, that's why, because I haven't faced it probably. I test for probably an hour or two before each video, and then pretty much each video is probably 2 or 3 times longer than what you guys see due to cutting out one-turn matches or matches that took forever. For example, like just turn-wise, nothing really to see. I know the first match probably wasn't the most exciting, but it was a unique deck I thought I'd leave in. So our opponent will Mega Evolve. I imagine we will be seeing a Shaman. I didn't notice if he grabbed that with Hooper or not. And he did. So he would need a Skyfield with a full bench to get us knocked out, which in theory is possible. We'll be choosing to power up Joltik. As I did say before, that is a weakness of the deck, although he already has enough out for Lysander. So opponent is getting set up pretty good here. Fortunately for us, I don't personally see any way of him touching Regice, so that is a good thing. The only option he has for Glaceon would be the Jolteon. So I will Ultra Ball here and grab another Shaman. We already have enough on the bench. I'll actually choose to probably discard the Shaman and the Hoopa if it does so come up. Yeah, Seismitoad's kind of useless weight now. Do get the Rough Seas, which is good. Regice is already powered up. We will be getting rid of probably Hoopa because that's kind of useless. And we do have N. I think I'll choose to use N here. Nice to save at least one more Verse Seeker there. Max Elixir, Energy Switch, Lysander, and Trainer's Mail. Don't really need to play any of those at this moment. And this will be a 3-hit knockout. But no way for him to knock anything out other than Lysander at the time. Probably looking for that now. Town map. Hopefully Lysander's prized. That'd be pretty sweet. Not sure if they would be playing 2 or not. And 3 Verse Seekers are prized. Wow. So did he already play one? He has, so no Verse Seekers. So he can Lysander once if he has it in hand this turn. Lysander get 2 prizes, and then he'd be in pretty good shape. I have Lysander as well, so Joltik shouldn't be too big of an issue. Choosing to go for another Hoopa. Must really want that Lysander here this turn. Ultra Ball likely for nothing. Super Rod. So clearly going for the Lysander here, which is kind of an issue because then you can get 2 Verse Seekers and then the game's in pretty bad position. In hindsight, maybe using Seismitoad would be the option here, but will fail. So are in a pretty good position. If I have AZ, I don't want to end, don't really want to Sycamore. I'm trying to think if Lysander's even worth it. Probably He is powering up Joltik, but it has free retreat, so there's no real need for that. And I mean, I'm just going to attack here. I wish they didn't have that timer. I understand why it's there, but I was trying to think of what the best move was, and then I didn't really see the mood for Max Elixir or Energy Switch or any of that this turn. Could see a retreat into Jolteon. Not too concerned. We are going to see that move. Not quite sure. I guess he's trying to stall here. Perhaps hoping I can't do anything. I'm actually going to power up this, and we're just going to Lysander out here and get 2 prize cards. So our opponent can't touch us, and we can't touch them. Again, a Lysander to Shaman will pretty much be not very good, because then he'll be able to get 2 Lysanders. We'll be playing N, likely. And he will be. Not too concerned. All that means is this turn, there's no way for him to touch us. Could see an escape rope, although I don't see that happening. Trying to think of the best option here. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage by basics. Not sure how many energy this kind of deck plays. There's a DCE in play, so there's 2 more at least I would think of in the deck. And there's 4 basics that have been used. So Hoopa, 2 retreat, and a float stone. Probably just going to Lysander out of Shaman here. No reason not to. No reason to really do anything else. Fighting Fury Belt's kind of useless. And we're just going to attack here. Do have a Verse Seeker for another Lysander. If our opponent does choose to retreat. AZ, interesting. So not sure if my opponent's having that horrible luck of not being able to get Lysander, or what exactly is going on here. Did already play AZ, so won't be taking any damage this turn. Did see a max elixir for a lightning energy, so Verse Seeker for Lysander I think is going to be putting him in a pretty difficult position. Yeah, still no Lysander, so must be those last 4 cards in the deck there. Hex Maniac, pretty useless at this point. He'd be doing 140 damage. So a Fighting Fury Belt would be worth it. Although probably not worth it. How many Verse Seekers that we use? This is only our second, so we can actually Lysander once again. We'll grab that Shaman again, and we will Resistance Blizzard. So our opponent will need a energy, Lysander. Maybe that was his top deck. We'll be using the DCE. Probably Sky Return. Retreat, interesting choice. Very interesting choice. Hex Maniac, not quite sure what that's for. It's actually interesting that I was thinking of using Hex Maniac myself. Unfortunately, he will be getting rid of the Shaman, I'm sure, if we were to discard the Stadium. Probably. Well, let's play Regice. We'll be getting rid of probably Shaman, and that Hoopa probably. That'd be my best guess. Probably in hindsight, you might not have even needed to play that there. We'll Sycamore here. I haven't really done much the last few turns. Did end up getting Lysander there. Probably going to be pulling out that other Shaman. We'll be probably getting 2 Verse Seekers out of the prizes, I would imagine. And that's what he does choose to do. We'll throw up Regice again. What I'll actually do is I'm going to Lysander out that Shaman because actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to deck him out. I think at this point in the match, he can't do anything about it, so. I'm trying to think if my opponent might have N in his hand, but I don't. He has 2 Verse Seekers, I know. Obviously, he doesn't have any more Lysander. He only plays 1 in his deck, and my opponent will concede there. So maybe not the most exciting match, but was kind of on the edge of your seat, kind of expecting what to do there. That is one problem with this deck. Big EX or Mega EX Pokemon do have difficulty knocking them out, especially when they can get set up so quickly. But obviously, it did do well in Nationals, topping and getting 3rd place. So got a pretty big bonus there from the daily ladder. So I'll go in and we'll do a quick review. Hope you guys enjoyed some of the battles we had. Whoops. That's another deck I was working on. Not sure why that one came up. Alrighty. So again, like I mentioned at the beginning, you pretty much have Seismitoad to stall your opponent, so that way you can set up one of your other attackers, typically either Glaceon or Regice, trying to block evolution Pokemon or block EX Pokemon. Manaphy is great with its free retreat, Shaman, and Hoopa to help set up pretty much your 1st or 2nd turn. And then you can also use Grenade Hammer. We actually didn't see that in any of our matches. We saw Quacking Punch, I believe, in all of them. Energy Switch with Max Elixir can be a pretty good combo. Put an energy on the bench, switching into the active, or switching something in the active, giving it free retreat, or doing something like that. So it's really good card. I really like using this card. I know it doesn't see much use in many decks, but it really does have its use. And then pretty much all the other cards are pretty standard. We saw how great Hex Maniac was against Night March with the Mew. Lysander, our last match, we stalled out our opponent because he really had nothing else to do. He couldn't get his Lysander, and we played 2, so we were in a pretty good position. And then Rough Seas, that's pretty much the highlight of this match. If you're facing Trevenant, you're pretty much going to win if you have Rough Seas because they can't do damage to you. I did face a Trevenant Golbat or a Crobat deck, and that was actually really difficult because I didn't get item lock in time, and he was just putting down damage like crazy, so I couldn't heal it off. So that was a pretty tricky matchup. That was in practice, of course. I didn't get to show that in any of these. I did have quite a few good matches, but I obviously can't record all the time. But that's it for this video. Definitely let me know if you think I should have played differently, or if you have different opinions on the way the deck should be played. Definitely would like hearing that. And let me know if you have any suggestions for future decks. Might be looking at the Greninja Break deck as I accidentally opened there. Also with that Giratina Darkrai deck. I'm still learning how to set the deck up and how it works and different things like that. But definitely some stuff to look forward to. And I thank you guys for watching if you made it this far. And please like, share, and subscribe. And stay tuned for some more videos.